Good morning, guys. My name's Tony Pereira, Property Secrets here. Just wanted to give you guys a update. As today I'm heading to a place called Grimsby, which is in the in a place called Lincolnshire, which is a county, and it's in the northeast of England. So I'm going to see some projects with through a colleague of mine, someone who's currently helping me in my property journey, and he has a great operation up in Grimsby, where they have developed in the last 5 years roughly around 600 properties, and I am sort of learning that process with him, and also hopefully helping you guys, helping educate you guys in terms of how to how to source properties, how to find the best deals, and the pitfalls to look out for when you're looking at a number of properties. Now, what we'll be covering today in today's activity, so we are going to be spending the day in their offices. The company is called Galaxy of Homes. They've done fantastically well in terms of the operation that they run, and the number of properties that they have done in the last sort of 5 years, and the dedication. I mean, it was started by a husband and wife couple who worked very, very hard together, who were in the 9-to-5 rat race, but wanted to achieve a better life for themselves, and now they've done that, and it is a fantastic story, and I would highly recommend, if you do have time, go and check them out at Galaxy of Homes, because you will be very, very inspired by their hard work and dedication to their work and what they've achieved in the last 5 to 6 years. So you're in for a treat today, guys. You're going to see exactly the process and what they do. Obviously, hopefully there'll be a few golden nuggets there for you guys, which is obviously always the aim of the game, and to help you to learn, and obviously we do love any of your comments, any questions that you may have, and please do hit the like button if you like the content, and obviously do subscribe to the channel if you feel that we are providing value for you. So that is that. So you'll be seeing very shortly the time that we had, and how I have learning about the process, because the good thing about a place called Grimsby is that the number of properties, firstly obviously the rental yield that you can achieve in that part of the country is great. You're probably looking at upwards of about 8%, which obviously people in the south, London for example, and the southeast is virtually unheard of. So it is a fantastic rental yield. You're buying lower prices, so generally roughly between I would say at the lower end around 45,000, and at the top scale up to about 80,000, which is very good. And obviously you can achieve rents of between I would say between 400 and 500 pounds per month, conservatively, which as I said, if you depending on how much you've had to put in, so that would be including your deposit, your legal costs, stamp duty if there is any, and obviously the refurb costs. And obviously generally in the north you refurb properties for a lot less than you can in the south. Well, that's the conception that I have, but I do feel generally that is true, and that's good, and hence why a lot of property investors are attracted to the north, is because the numbers do make a lot more sense, and it works a whole lot better. So yes, so you guys are in for a treat, and I look forward to updating you after my journey, and seeing what your thoughts were. A 3-bed house in Grimsby.
Hello, nice to meet you. You got a mask? Are you alright yet? So I'm just telling the guys I'm taking a picture outside of the house first. Then we'll come in and have a look at the inside. First of all, so just to me it looks like it needs, which I viewed this one the other day, and on my quote I actually said that it needs a new wall, half a wall here.
Yeah, it's gone.
So I know there's already a boundary, but you need that extra. Yeah, it looks like there was one before, but it's just and here as well it needs a little bit of brickwork as well. Garden needs tidying up, so I'd put that on my notes and just sort of start off with the front garden first, and then move my way into the property. So. Yes.
That's a damp.
It looks like that needs looking at from the outside, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at the ceiling on the inside of the living room, or even sort of just inside where that is. I'll have a look to see if there's any marks or anything like that on the ceiling, and then that'll tell me really if there's any leaks or anything like that that have been coming through, and that'll indicate to me whether it's an issue. If it's not, then normally I'd just sort of ask for someone to have a look at it as part of the refurb. I'll confirm whether there's any issues or anything like that. So. That's fine. But as you can see, it is sort of wear and tear as well. I think that would need looking at.
So that's the brick.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
That's the one.
So yeah, but these are, like I say, up with the same estate agent. So it's a good opportunity really to have both of them. They'll be quite, that one's really big inside, and it's a good layout as well. So I think this will be the same. The plasterwork's not great, just by looking at it in the hallway. This would need replastering here. So what I'd do is I'd add a note say, sorry, I'll move back so you can all come in.
So what about the meters, like the electric wiring is all good?
So what I'll do is I'll do the pictures last, so I'll show you what pictures I take last.
Okay.
And I'll take you through first of all what kind of notes I take. But I would take a picture of the electrical consumer unit, and then the electrician that would normally come on visits with me, he would do that. But today I'll take a picture and then he'll send me his quote. He'll decide whether a rewire is needed, a new consumer unit, that kind of thing, just from the picture that I send, because he can see that that's an old consumer unit, so it would probably more than likely need a new consumer unit. If there's damp, it would most likely need a rewire as well, because it'd be plaster work coming off, rewiring, that kind of thing. So
really smell damp.
yes, yeah. So again, as well, what I'll do when I'm taking the pictures, I'll get my DAB reader out, and we'll do it sort of step by step so you can see what I do.
So this whole way needs carpeting, yes? Like
Yes, flooring's not great. Sorry, did you want to? Sorry,
No,
can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Flooring is not very carpet, so that would need much. This, in my opinion, needs replastering. It's not good. I mean, even if you painted over that, you can still see lumps and everything, and that doesn't look good. Like this has got chips in it and everything. So yeah, I always look at the skirting boards as well and the door frames, because if they're not in good condition, they would possibly need. Yeah, you do find often that there's chunks and everything missing out of door frames and skirting boards, which isn't good. So I always put down to look into replacing them. It's obviously that looks like that's sorted there as well. So it's good. Internal doors as well we look at. So we'll go sort of step by step, but this is the plastering first of all, doesn't look great.
What would be there's some cracks here?
Yeah, so that would need looking at as well as part of this is the kind of pictures that I take, do you know, so they can have a look and they can see, because Vikash, when I've done a viewing, I send them straight to Vikash straight after, and then he can see what kind of issues we've got that lie in the property, so he can see that. We always make sure we've got one of these in every property for safety reasons. So this one, it's got one, which is good, but that would need repainting, possibly. It might even need replacing, to be honest, because it's got dips and everything. The walls just crumbling all the way up, so half it would need redoing. People that Vikash knows closely, and we've invited them today to
Alright.
This is Tom, he works for Crops Estate Agent.
Alright. I'll leave you to it then.
Yeah, that's alright, yeah.
Keep it back though.
Thank you very much. So yeah, recarpeting the desk straight away.
Thank you very much.
Walls, they don't look great. First of all, my first impressions are replastering is needed already in hallway, living room and diner, because I can see from here the walls aren't looking great condition. They've got chips, marks, the skirting is needed already in hallway, living room and diner, because I can see from here the walls aren't looking great condition. They've got chips, marks, the skirting boards aren't good, there's gaps in the door frames of the walls, so you can see everything there. The wallpaper, this would need taking off. We would then, normally with any chimney breast, it's classed as a feature wall in a property, so that would be painted the grey, the dark grey that you've probably seen in your houses. That wall and that wall would need painting in the grey.
Like 2 feet walls.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd normally say that's the main living, and this is the diner, or if you wanted it either way, you could have it either way. It is pretty obvious in here what needs doing, to be honest. Everything. But this is...
That's the way you like it though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It gives me something to do. Windows. I always check windows to see if they're blown. Any blown units we replace, obviously.
When you look at this, like wherever there's the walls are little bulging, then you say it's a plastering.
I would say, because even if you paint that, that's not going to look in very good condition. And when it comes to me snagging the property, or Jess is the lettings manager, she comes with me at the moment to do snagging, because I'm obviously quite new, so she's helping me pick up certain things on the snagging visits. It wouldn't look very good even if you paint over that, because I think if you can see, it's been I think it's wallpapered, the lining. It's coming off there, so that would need taking off, which then would probably take plaster off with it, and then it would need replastering anyway. And to be honest, if it's damp, which it does smell like it is, it would need replastering anyway. We wouldn't really suggest. I mean, I don't know.
What about the wirings? If you're going to do a plastering here, then you've got to look at the wiring also. Right?
Exactly. The electrician, that's what he looks at. So if there's damp, he said, well, even if it's a new consumer unit, chances are...
Because behind there will be some wires running.
Exactly, yeah. Well, majority of the property, to be honest. And if there's any damp, we have to take the plaster off, rewire, and then treat the damp, replaster, rendering, all of that, which is obviously extra on top. But as well with the kitchen.
When we say plastering, then we got to also consider the wirings and the other.
Exactly.
Everything actually.
It factors. Everything sort of comes together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, well, if this all needs damp course, it's all going to need taking out anyway, the plastering. It's going to need replastering, and then it'll obviously make sure that the walls are in really nice condition when it's all finished, because the damp will be treated. This looks like it's got wood here, which is really loose. I don't know what that is, but we would get that removed. That would need redoing anyway, because this is all plaster that's just crumbling off, it's cracking. Yeah, this is again, you can see that it's raising here. There's like lining of wallpaper that's coming up. So we would just, I would say to re-wallpaper if need be. If it wasn't damp, I would say re-wallpaper, but it needs coming off anyway. So, and these skirting boards are very good. Again, with the heating.
What about the roofs on?
Looking at this, yeah, looking at this, it doesn't look like any leak markings or anything like that have come through, and it's not bowing. So if it was bowing or anything like that, you'd see that there's been leaks coming through. I think that might be like just paint work. I'm not too sure, but I would look at that just to be on the safe side. I'm going to get a roof to come and have a look at the outside anyway, because it is dipping, which is good. But yeah, looking at this ceiling, the edges where the guttering lies, it looks okay to me. So the guttering isn't the issue. I think if anything it'd be just the outside, you know, the felt roof.
But normally it'll be flat, right? We don't have this kind of patterns in the ceilings in the Galaxy at home. So do we do a complete removal of this, or
if it's good, if it looks nice, which I think it does look quite nice, and if it's in nice condition, which it does look okay, I would say to keep it personally. But on the other hand, we can always change it if the refurb team come and have a look themselves and they think that needs sort of skimming over and things like that. But to be honest, anything that looks nice and it's in good condition, it's not a safety risk. Or if the refurb team come and have a look themselves and they think that needs sort of skimming over and things like that. But to be honest, anything that looks nice and it's in good condition, it's not a safety risk or anything like that, we would say to keep it, because it does have character in the long run. Obviously it was originally here, so just looked quite nice. But again, we're looking at the wall over here, it's not great, so again replastering and everything. This looks really bad as well. That definitely needs doing. Skirting boards need doing here.
Do we know if was it tenanted or was it someone lived? Was it owner occupier or?
Normally that would be answered by Tom, who's
the
outside.
agent,
But yeah, normally they are with these kind of properties. If they're damp or anything like that, from experience, normally they've been tenanted and not looked after. So they've not told the landlord that there's damp, or they've just not taken very good care of it. You know, they've done things to the property that they've not told the landlord about. So then it don't bode well, because now there's plaster coming off the walls. It's just not great. It's just not been looked after, basically. So all this carpet would need taken up. And then we're coming into the kitchen, which is obvious it needs a full new kitchen.
Yes.
Sometimes on property viewings you do find there are nice kitchens.
Yeah.
I went to one the other day and I looked at the kitchen and it was lovely.
Yeah.
So on the quote, what I do is I do put a new kitchen down, but then I put on there we could possibly keep the kitchen to save that cost. You know, if you don't need to change it, there's no. If it fits nice and it's solid and it's not, if anything was to get damaged, it's not very much upkeep, and you can easily fix it, then I would say to keep it. But this obviously needs changing. The full floor needs doing. The walls in here I would say replastered again. Dips. Just the general condition of it isn't great. This looks like there's been a leak. Yeah, from upstairs I assume. I don't know whether that's where the bathroom is maybe. Yeah, so I'll have a look upstairs, but I'll put that on the quote as well. This needs full new repaint. That would need.
What would the gas lamps?
Yeah, so that's something that the plumber normally looks at. So what I'll do today is absent. I'll take a picture of the radiators, the pipe work around the radiator, so we can see what kind of pipe work it is, the boiler, and he needs a picture of the kitchen as well, and the bathroom. Because then he'll make that decision whether the bathroom needs redoing, which I think it might do, judging by the state of the property so far. But he also needs to see what kind of pipe work it is, because he knows then. And the boiler as well, he knows how old it is by looking at it. you know, as if it needs a new boiler, new heating system, that kind of thing. So he would make that decision. Anything technical like that, especially with electric as well, that is down to them to make that decision. I can obviously take the pictures and everything, but normally they come on viewings with me, so they can make that decision, and they then send me their quote and their work that's needed, which Vikash has also kept in the loop with as well. So this downstairs toilet, so this looks like the flooring definitely needs looking at, because it just looks like this will be damp all around here, I can just tell. Might need the ceiling looking at as well, but because there's no bath or shower in here, it wouldn't be a safety risk to keep it, because there's no steam or anything like that. Looks like to me the lightings would need replacing, because they're really old and you can see all the yellow and everything, but this in general, it would need redoing. New toilet, everything, because it's just old, not very nice. It would need the wallpaper coming out and everything like that, but I think again it's going to be a fully damp course, so it's not going to be in good. This would need a new back door handle. The back door itself is fine because it's UPVC and it's double glazed, so it's not as though we don't need to replace it, but the door handle itself, it will need redoing. And also look at things like, it's little things that you have to keep an eye out for. So the bottom of the doors, we need to know whether there needs to be a weather bar on there, so when it rains, we need to know that the rain has fallen off the bottom of that door and it's not going to be leaking into the kitchen. So it's little things like that that I have to keep an eye out for, to make sure that if there isn't one, then we need to add one onto the door. Meters are high up, so I often have to bring the ladders because I'm such a So as you can see, damp everywhere already. So you can kind of tell for yourself what work needs doing. These doors, anything that's wooden and glass, for safety reasons we do change to just wood. For safety, because obviously tenants might move in, accidentally smash, and it's a safety issue. The same with these as well, they'll need removing.
It'll be a proper door.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't think they'll put anything there. I didn't personally view this one myself, so I don't know what the quote says, because I didn't do the quote. But I don't think they'll replace these, because it's an open plan. It's better to be open plan sometimes, so they don't normally keep sliding doors anyway, but even still, that's glass, so they'd get rid of that. So again, you can see it's just completely ripping out wallpaper, and to be honest, yeah, the plaster work won't be great under there, so that'll need looking at. You can just smell the damp, can't you, when you're in here? Yeah. It stinks, I told you, it hits you in the face. It's awful. This is quite, I think these are quite nice. I don't know whether that's been done since we bought it for safety reasons or not, or whether that was done by the owner previously, but I think they'll probably just get rid of that and maybe brick it up. I think, because that won't be used, I don't think, but these we normally keep if it's brick or...
So, what about these? The bricks?
I don't know, because like I say, I didn't review this one myself, I don't know what's on the quote, but I would say to suggest maybe painting them grey. They'd paint that grey, because that's like a chimney, like a feature wall. That ceiling is, I believe, we wouldn't keep that. If it's the polystyrene, it's illegal for fire safety reasons. If it's polystyrene, like coving, you know this coving, if there's any polystyrene, because sometimes in properties you find that we might buy it and it'll have polystyrene coving, that's illegal for fire safety reasons, because it just, you know, it goes up in, it completely goes up in flames. So it needs to be the correct material for fire reasons. So that looks like wood to me anyway, or like, you know, something that's safe. It doesn't look like it's sort of polystyrene, but then looking at the ceiling, which is a very old ceiling and that'll be probably replaced, that might need replacing as well if it is the wrong material. But I don't know, like I say, I've not I didn't view this one originally, so I don't know what was agreed on the quote, but it does definitely need ripping out and do it again. Again, this will be a feature wall. That was an example of a key collection that I just did there. What I would also do as well is a health check. So before we buy, the sale goes through completely, 100%. We have to, you know, like I mentioned to you before in the previous property, we make sure the garden and everything is gone. Because that's stuff, that's extra cost at the end of the day. We have to make sure that's removed. And it's cost that we shouldn't be paying because it's not our things to remove. So we have to make sure that the previous owner, or tenant should I say, if it is a tenant, the owner has to speak to their tenant and say, you've moved out, we've sold the property, can you take your things now? We've got a potential buyer, you know, that kind of thing. That's when I'm then asked to come and do a health check. And also on the health check, what I do is I make sure it's empty. I normally meet the estate agent here. If it's a private owner, I meet the private owner and they show me around, and I just make sure that it's empty, the garden's empty, and the meters are clear as well. And so I check that every time I come to the property because I need to make sure that before we buy it, there's no debt on the meters. Because again, it's an issue down the line where...
It's not the previous tenants for the...
No, often, no, it's not, because that might have been there when they moved in. So then that might not be, you know, we don't know when it was actually put there. They
The wardrobe was also there. One of the bedrooms. That was...
The what, sorry?
The wardrobe.
Oh yeah, everything, yeah. Wardrobe, anything like that. So there was a glass table in the back garden as well. That'll be removed. If we was to buy that property, we would say this all needs to be removed before we sell
This is
this
part
one.
of the health check which will be sent to the agent.
Yes.
So the agent should do all of these.
Exactly. We ask the estate agent or the private owner, if we're there with them, we say, there is some debt on that meter, can you please make sure that the vendor clears it before we buy the property, and also there's some bits that need removing, can you also make sure they're removed as well? So before we actually finalise the sale and go through with everything, so they know that we're thinking of buying it, they know that we want to buy it, but to finalise the sale, which is in their benefit, they should be making sure that so for example, I went to one yesterday and it was a health check, and there was debt on the meter about £50.
That will be shown on the meter, or
Yes.
they will bring the...
No, it was shown on the meter. So what I'd do is the gas, so on here I've got this, that's the meter key. So I take that to every property I go to because I often find that it's them gas meters outside that I need to get into. I check on there, just press the button and it tells me how much debt is on there, and also with the electric, which is obviously inside, that as well should tell me. It depends what meter it is though. We've got smart meters, prepaid, billed, things like that, which you'll then determine whether it's their responsibility. Do you know what I mean? So you'll know, but we need to make sure either way, whatever meter it is, it needs to be cleared. We don't want any debt on there, so but there are the old meters. I don't know if you know what I mean when I say they've got like the old fashioned numbers on them and they just like flick up. Yeah, so you've got them in some properties which we know that is responsible. That just gets billed to the previous owner anyway. That'll just get sent to them. So we know that that'll get cleared. Well, it should do anyway. And if it ever didn't, then it wouldn't be our responsibility. That'd be theirs. So yeah, you can see it on the meters, any debt or anything like that, yeah. So that's what a health check is. But I thought this was a good opportunity to show you this one because it's empty, it's not been refurbed, and then I can show you sort of what it looks like when I do a health check. This is what it should, if it's a really sort of run down property like this, it normally looks like this because they've just sort of, as you can see, emptied everything and just left. Not really took much care, but downstairs bathroom here, another example of what it could look like.
So what were these walls? Everything is...
It'd be white. Everything.
Designated new like damp proof.
I'm not too sure with this one, to be honest. I know that it will need damp because when I came the other day with Paul, who's doing the work,
because the walls looks good.
yes, but there probably is, damp. So this definitely will need a damp course doing in this property. Judging by the smell and the state of the walls and everything. Like I say, sometimes you can see a wall and think it doesn't look like it needs doing, but you can just smell it. That hallway will be completely redoing. The living room in here, so
it would be like you got to do everything, just not leaving this around, right?
Yeah.
Better to do the complete.
Yeah, but it's this bad. It's always best. I always find it's best. I always go around with a damp meat reader the whole downstairs anyway, as much as I can. So I can't go behind units and everything. But if there's damp in the kitchen, there's more likely going to be damp everywhere in the kitchen. So you always put down that it's a full damp course throughout, because damp is such a costly thing, both to get it treated in the first instance and then later on down the line, if there is damp and you miss it, it's just going to cause such an issue. So we always make sure we're really accurate with that. To me, it looks like there's really old light fittings in here, so there would, and that electrical consumer unit as well was a really old one. So it would need a full new rewire. Plumbing, I don't know about plumbing because I haven't seen the boiler yet, but look at that. This cooker switch would need redoing. That's a really old
I
one.
reckon the 70s, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh dear, look at the tiles. And here as well, it's quite, it's just an old property that's not been decorated, I don't think, since the first got it, but the curtains and everything are. So we'll go upstairs. You can see there's plaster on the carpet, well, like wall plaster on the carpet, it's just crumbling away. So
Wow.
So this up here.
They look small from outside, but they're big properties,
They
aren't
do.
they?
This is the thing about terraced.
Yeah.
I quite like terraced.
Yeah.
Like Durban Road we've just been to.
Yeah.
My partner's grandma lives down there.
Okay.
And she's got, we've actually got quite a few houses down there, but her house, when she first moved in about 40 years ago, how they're laid out, all of them, is you go in, you've got a porch and then you're in the living room and then your stairs are in the living room. She's actually put a hallway in herself because it goes back so far, it's made it feel so much bigger. And they do feel like big houses, don't they? So it is good. Terraced houses are really good because they are sort of narrow from the outside, but when you get in, it goes back really far, and like the kitchen area and everything. So, but this obviously needs redoing. Carpets, floorboards don't feel too bad, but. Again, we've got one of these, and I don't know if, look, you can see it's been boarded up, and I think that's for safety reasons. So I think that'll be taken out. There's obviously an issue somewhere that's causing the lining to come off and walls and everything to be as they are. So definitely a roof leak. You can just see straight away. That's and then what I normally do. This is what I was trying to look at the other property. But you can see, look, the roof and the chimney from here. So this is what I do on a viewing as well. I always look. Sorry, did you want to? The guttering, as you can see, is blocked, and the roof itself. You have a look at the roof and everything. Oh. And the chimney, I would say, needs looking at because it's got. Sort of, what I don't know what they've done to it. Sorry, can you see?
Yeah.
So the chimney itself, we always look at the chimney stack.
When you see these kind, like how do you like you see the gutter is blocked, so that's why the water is not going out, so it's coming.
Well, actually, no. You can see that this is. I think this is more of a. There'll be guttering up there, won't there?
This is really bad, isn't it?
So.
Yeah, so you see.
Yeah.
I can't see here because there's rendering above here, but I'm assuming above there or somewhere above there there is an issue with either the roof or the guttering, which has caused it to leak, caused an issue. That's caused obviously the wall, the plastering look is just crumbling off.
Yeah.
So it's just
how do you differentiate between, suppose there is a burst pipe or some leak coming from a pipe inside?
It's very difficult to determine that just by looking at a house, because obviously, as you could see, that estate agents have only got a certain amount of time, and I like to spend about 20 minutes like thoroughly looking at a property, but at the same time you can only see so much. So here you can see there's a real issue. I wouldn't say that's pipe work. I would say that's definitely to do with the roof and the guttering, but at the same time you can ask a roofer just to look and then see, because they'll have to clear the guttering anyway as part of the quote. So we would then put on the quote a roofer to inspect roof, chimney stack, and also any guttering issues around the property, front and back. Because if there's an issue this side, there'll more than likely be an issue at the front as well. So I always put it down for both. I also look at windowsills on the outside of properties if they're not in a very good state, which these look grubby and not very nice. I would ask for them to be repainted. Windowsill, sorry, the white windowsill, like this, but on the outside, yeah, sorry. So that I would say to be repainted, but that would be included in the painting quote, you know, the full property to be repainted on the inside. I've put on a little note on the quote, I'll show you later, but I'd say windowsills externally to be painted as well, because they don't look very nice and they look
So
rubby.
what about the previous property which we looked, that didn't have any roof issues, right?
No, it didn't look like it did. But I do, with any house that's quite old and it's got damp, even because damp's downstairs and it obviously rises and everything like that, I do like to say, can you please check the guttering, just to make sure, to be on the safe side, because I wouldn't want that to come back and then there'd be an issue later on down the line. I would rather with an old property, and it's not, like I say, it hasn't been looked after, so we'll more than likely have an issue somewhere with roof guttering and things like that. So.
Will that cause more issues, right? Because if you see the water is sitting inside,
Yeah.
so that means there should be some
Structural, yeah, that's definitely something that a roofer will look at as well. Obviously he won't know in terms of subsidence and things like that, if there's anything sort of to do with the actual structure of the property. But the roof itself and the gutter and everything, he'll give his feedback on that. In terms of long term, I don't know really. I mean, this would be replastered, and then obviously then any repairs that are needed will be done. So hopefully that long term would solve the issue. It's just a case of, because like I said,
this property is already bought by someone.
We've bought it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely getting that sorted. But this is something that we would see on the viewing though. So we would put that on the quote straight away. I'd look at that and I'd say the roof needs looking at and the guttering needs looking at. Both of them.
Did the estate agent say with this?
No, they don't normally. With anything like this, it's not classed as anything to do with. It's not like a serious in terms of subsidence or anything like that. It can be resolved. So yeah. It does. Yeah, you can just see it from here. It's really bad.
Assuming subsidence, you wouldn't touch it, would you?
No, we wouldn't, because we wouldn't really be able to.
It's not mortgageable anyway.
No, and yeah, it's just a nightmare, isn't it?
Lose money somewhere.
Would you get a building survey at all just to find out whether there's any structural problems with these properties? Or would you just use your own contractors to have a look?
We would use our own contractors. I don't know whether they would get somebody themselves to come and have a look if they felt as though it was necessary. So I'll go through what we picked up on and what's been done, so you can see. I know you won't see what it was like before, but at least you'll get an idea of what we're looking at. So at the front of the property, there was a loose wire hanging, which we thought, we don't know what that's used for and it's unsafe, so that needed to be removed. No gas cover, which still needs to be done, so we're waiting for that. Front garden in general needs sweeping and making tidy, and it's quite muddy, so make sure that that's been put on there as well. There were paint splashes internally on the front door and on the glass, so we had to get that removed, because as the painting with the glass, sometimes they get splashes on there, but then they didn't remove the splashes, they didn't get rid of the muck, so we had to put that down as a snag. Cupboard door upstairs doesn't latch, so I'll show you that when we go upstairs. There's quite a lot upstairs, and there was quite a lot in the garden, but I believe everything's been sorted apart from the decking, which is being sorted now.
So what is this gap?
Oh yeah, that's just tight work that we can't really fill that unless you just sort of, we don't want it to look messy in terms of filler, so we have to paint the pipe, make sure that kind of looks like this, so it looks flush, but because that's close to the wall there, then it is there, it doesn't look as flush, which I know is we can't really put any filler in there because it just looked messy. So we're trying our best to, you know, make sure that looks neat and tidy and everything. There was left in there a petrol can with petrol in it. So we had to get that removed. That was a snag. Paint was needed above and around the consumer unit in the hallway. So in the hallway it was very patchy and it just looked messy. So we put that down as one. It needed sorting out and needed tidying. We always check everything, so we make sure all the windows open and they're all secure. If we're always told by contractors if windows are still to be changed, because often we use an external contractor, like an external company for windows. So we need to make sure that the glass is delivered and fitted and everything. So sometimes when we do snag a property, the windows aren't done, but we know that they are going to be done. So that's one thing that we can tick off the list. We always check the lights work, so lights, make sure that they're working. We always check, so this is an example, that's a chimney breast and that's chimney breast. They both feature walls, so this could be for the room diner or if you wanted.
What about the heaters, will be changed or will be the same?
That was decided on this property, so everything as far as I'm aware heating wise has been done.
Okay.
Unless there was muck, so I went to a property the other day and there was stickers, like children's stickers and paint and everything all over the radiators, so that was a snag.
Will that not be painted or nothing?
I don't, if it was, it would have been done by now. Again, this is one that I didn't originally.
It looks a bit like when you look at the walls and the
different colour.
Different colour,
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
And also like the windows, there's some black spots.
Definitely. So this is all, these are all things that we've gone back to the contractor with and said, you need to send, well, not the contractor, but Paul, who will then feed it back to the contractor, who will then send them back round and they'll have to clean all of this and make sure that front garden, back garden, everything's tidy, neat, you know, clean. There is always going to be little bits and bobs that, we don't leave a property with bits and bobs that need doing, but when we always expect things to be outstanding when we go for our first snag visit, because there's always little things that they miss off, so that's why we come and we make sure that everything's done. We come twice visits.
This wall, like, there's a slight bump.
So I think that was actually put on here, 1 second. So there was a yellow patch on the wall, rear reception window, which has been done. Let me have a look. So chunk missing out of skirting in the front room, that was down there, that's been done, because it was a massive gap between the skirting and the wall, so you could see clearly that it needed filling, it needed doing, needed sorting out. We needed confirmation of what the coding was in here, because we thought that it wasn't legal, but it is, it's fine, it's not a fire hazard material wise or anything like that. I've put here rubbish and glass in the rear to be removed. So near the front door there was some sharp skirting which was missing, which needed to be filled. I'm just trying to think, try and find this one as well. Because it's all, I've put them down as I've kind of seen them, so it's all a bit everywhere. But. So I'm wondering if the bathroom window's been done as well. If there's things that haven't been done, it'll be good to point them out to you so you can see before and after. So there were radiator marks on the radiators in the middle of the front bedroom. I think this was this one actually. It had like pink all over them, like children's pink nail varnish or something. So we had to get that removed. There was plaster on the PVC frame in the windows in some of the rooms. That's been done. We've had pink and yellow marks on the wall and the ceiling in one of the bedrooms because it was originally a pink bedroom, and you often find that they painted it but they need another layer because it's very prominent colour. So it's things like that. So I'm just trying to find out. I think that's still to be done, by the way.
This one.
Yeah, the wall. Yeah, because that is where damp's been done, and they've tracked damp.
Does it need more redoing? Like
paint
out or
yeah.
And all this, the switch board, like these are all old still, right?
So
it doesn't look new.
No, these are examples of what the electrician would pick up in terms of what he thinks. So what we do is we take a picture of the property itself, I do anyway, and when they come, they take a picture of these kind of things, because we need to make sure that one, they're not like, they're brand new, they're
Yeah,
marketed.
that I can see, but
So that's what they look at. So this is a plumber would look at this kind of thing, and then an electrician. But I don't know. Like I say, I didn't view this and I didn't quote for it, so I'm not too sure what was on the original quote. But that's something that the electrician would. I know that what they check is that legally there has to be at least 2 sockets in every room that's habitable. So all the bedrooms and everything, they need to legally have 2 sockets in. So
will they look at the cosmetic or only the if it is working?
no. They do look at if it was like really bad to the point where it was like before hanging off the wall and everything. They'll get a new socket, they'll get a brand new socket. But if that's functioning okay,
they will not.
It's not unsafe, it functions okay, it's not, I know it's got a little bit of mark on it, but if they paint over that could affect the functionality in long term, if that makes sense. So they've painted around it, because that wasn't put on the quote to be changed, otherwise it would have been changed. Same as the radiator. The heating, I think, has been also, everything's been done in terms of heating and electrical, because you can see they've been changed.
But that is perfectly fine. And also, if you want to change it, it's not more than 5 quid. It doesn't take too much to change.
No, I'm just asking that because when you refurbishing everything, so you always tend to like have something new.
No, I agree with you. I think that should really make it. But if it needs change, that is not that expensive. Just 5 quid. That the box is only 5 quid.
Yeah, I
You can probably get it like wholesale, a bit more cheaper than that.
Yes, they can change it. That's
They can change it.
Well, Ricardo is getting from India, so
So it's not that expensive. But you're right. I think that. This one, sorry.
Yeah, I asked the same.
Did you ask that?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't in the loop. So,
Yes, you can see that prominently.
did you change that or is it?
We picked up on that in the snags.
Yeah, because you can see in this one as well.
But this is not something that's.
If you look from here, you can see that.
Yeah, and from here as well, you can see that.
uneven,
you
it's
can
uneven,
see
yeah.
That's where originally the damp course was done. But the thing is, that's a very big dip, and we did mention that. But if it's not on the original quote, if the damp work's on the quote and they've done the damp work, that's not something that's easily rectifiable, because they've painted it, the wallpaper, they've put new wallpaper on that, and then they'll have to rip all that out, replaster again. So that's something that we would have to speak to Vikash about and say, what do you think we should do about this kind of thing? Do you think it would affect the letting side of it, that kind of thing? So we have to ask them kind of questions. But this was one that I looked at when I first.
Yeah, it's all very obvious.
Well, yeah, no, it's obvious.
That is obvious as well from this angle.
Yeah.
This property was one that I looked at when I
also
just first started.
The stream, this leaks old, and I can
Yeah.
see those like.
Functionality though, yeah.
There's some bump or something like that there on the wall.
Yeah, that's plaster work. That'll be on the snag list as well. So everything that you're picking out, we would. Because Jess, who comes with me, who you've spoken to before, she's got a really keen eye for stuff like this anyway. This is why she's coming with me, because she's teaching me really what to look out for on the stag. So I've only started doing stags with Jess for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's new to me as well, but it's interesting because you do pick out things like that and that. And these are all things that you do say, this would affect the letting of it.
Yeah.
You know, someone comes
Obviously,
in and has a look. Yeah.
it looks dirty.
But
This thing, flooring, it's a bit slopey here. It doesn't really matter.
No, we would, unless it's, you can feel it before.
There is a bit of a bump here.
Yeah.
You can see. Yeah.
I mean, it's only if it's a health and safety concern,
Yeah.
like someone's going to fall over or something.
Yeah.
If it was upstairs and you could feel floorboards, that's when we'd
So
say,
this is okay, is it?
that's fine, it's just the way the house is, I think.
Yeah.
We can't really change anything like that, but this is not a safety thing. Upstairs, if the floorboard is loose,
Yeah.
we would say that carpet needs ripping up and we need to secure that floorboard and then need to put it back down. We don't really, you can say, oh, it's too much. Like, we'd put the carpet down and we'd say it needs sorted before we let it out. It's a floorboard and it's very noticeable. If you're upstairs and you're walking, even if you sat down here, you can hear it. You know, it's not good.
And is this a wallpaper? Is it?
This is wallpaper and it's painted over. So
wallpaper and painted over the wallpaper.
painted over, yeah.
Okay. Why would you put wallpaper and painted? Can we not paint
It's
it?
just white, this wallpaper. And we've got a specific colour that they like to use for the chimney breasts.
Sure.
Well, for what's it called, feature walls, should I say?
So, why do we have to put the wallpaper and paint it? Why can't we just paint it?
I don't know in terms of the plaster. I don't know whether these walls were in good enough condition to paint.
I see.
Following on from this stamp work that was done,
Yeah.
you have to re-render and plaster and everything
Yeah.
after the damp work's done. But I think that's why they've put the wallpapering on, because the damp work's been done. I don't know what the walls were like before, so I think they might have
May
thought.
also be for the effect.
Yeah, they
Maybe
might have
no.
also thought as well.
Aesthetically, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if you do damp work, then you have to plaster it. So I just wondered, rather than plastering it, they put a wallpaper in and then painted it. So plastering and things like that would be a bit more time consuming.
Yeah.
So I suspect that is what is
They would
happening.
have.
Yeah.
This is what you see here. This dip, and it is
Yeah,
it's noticeable because
Oh, it hasn't been plastered.
So
as
this is
well.
why I think that's just why they put the
You
wallpaper.
don't know. Yeah.
I'm not. I know this has all been done because I think that was damp.
Okay.
I need to secure that floorboard and then need to put it back down. We don't really. You can say, oh, it's too much.
Yeah.
Like we put the carpet down and we say it needs sorted before we let it out. It's a floorboard and it's very noticeable. If you're upstairs and you're walking, even if you sat down here, you can hear it. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not good.
And is this a wallpaper? Is it?
This is wallpaper, and it's painted over. So
wallpaper and painted over the
we
wallpaper.
paint over the, yeah.
Okay. Why would you put wallpaper and paint it? Can we not paint
It's
it?
just
over?
white, this wallpaper, and we've got a specific colour that they like to use for the
Sure.
chimney breasts.
Sure.
Well, for what's it called, feature walls, should I say?
So, why do we have to put the wallpaper and paint it? Why can't we just paint it?
I don't know in terms of the plaster. I don't know whether these walls were in good enough condition to paint.
I see.
Following on from this stamp work that was done,
Yeah.
you have to re-render and plaster everything.
Yeah.
After the damp work's done, but I think that's why they put the wallpapering on, because the damp work's been done. I don't know what the walls were like before, so I think they might have
May
thought.
also be for the effect.
Yeah, they
Maybe
might have
no.
also thought as well.
Aesthetically, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if you do damp work, then you have to plaster it. So I just wondered, rather than plastering it, they put a wallpaper in and then painted it. So plastering and things like that would be a bit more time consuming.
Yeah.
So I suspect that is what is
They would
happening.
have.
Yeah.
This is what you see here. This dip, and it is
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
noticeable.
Oh,
Because
it hasn't been plastered.
So
as
this is
well.
why I think that's just why they put the
You
wallpaper.
don't know. Yeah.
I'm not. I know this has all been done because I think that was damp,
Okay.
and that's normally where
Yeah.
you'd find that dip. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying. It's just this is definitely wallpaper.
Yeah.
Because
So
I've seen it.
usually you don't put wallpaper and then do it, isn't it? I just wonder
No.
what's any particular reason to do it.
Because he likes this colour.
No, you can plaster it and you can put
Paint
this
it.
Yeah, no, yeah. It must have been a reason underneath.
Yeah.
There must have been plastering. There must have been another way that they could have easily to help save a little bit of money, effectively. So rather than replastering the full wall, maybe
just
they
put
probably thought it might
put
be
a wallpaper
more
and then-
cost effective, and it looks effects-wise. I don't know whether that's the reason why it's been put up. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
But this is the colour, that's why they normally put wallpaper up. Normally you put wallpaper up and you just leave it as it, like the colour that it is.
Absolutely.
But he likes these colours on
To be painted as well, yeah.
on the wall. But I will say this is one of very few properties that I've seen with them dips. Normally we would say that needs to be sorted. Flush.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a feature wall, you don't want it to be, you don't want it to have a dip in it, that kind of thing. So we do pick up on all of this, but where we are just obviously we're doing the snag, and if that's the accounts team, that's really for them to be discussing with the contractor and saying you need to be doing that.
Yeah.
We don't have that discussion with them. We go back and we give the snag list to them, and they say they then relate to the contractor, and they discuss it with them and say this is what you need to be doing. Why wasn't it done on refurb? That kind of thing. So they have that discussion with them. We never really get involved in that. We just make sure that we attend and the work that needs doing is done before we sign it off, basically. So I know it is noticeable then, and I think that is because if I remember rightly, when me and Jess came, it was on the quote that there was damp. So that's why they've done that work from obviously up to here, and it's obviously noticeable, so you can see that. But I mean,
and very similarly as well, they're done damp course. It's very clear what they're done. They're done damp course up here, that is what you do. And that's where the dip is.
that's it. But damp.
Yeah.
That was the issue. I know there was damp here as well. Because there was, when I first came to this property, still getting refurbed. Paul showed me, and it was salting all here. So they had to treat it, and then this was like you can see a little bit. They've done their very best on making it as nice as they can in terms of, because it was just damp everywhere, and it was not very nice. But we make sure when we come and do a snag that they've got everything is sealed in terms of here. These are all functioning. We need to make sure this is functioning as well. That's on the snag list. But this has got to be working, the light's got to be working, everything like that's got to be functioning.
And you don't provide a cooker, is that correct?
No, that's correct. We don't actually, well, Vikash, if there's an integrated cooker in the kitchen, we definitely don't keep that kitchen. Even if it's a nice kitchen, it's a bit of a, because there's going to be issues with the cooker later on down the line, and that's just cost that. You might buy it and it might be.
So all the tenants come with the cooker, is it? Is there any tenants who's coming to that no, I can't get a cooker?
Well,
No?
so we don't provide that.
You don't provide
No, we don't.
You said that sometimes you provide it, but then they tell them that they will not do any maintenance for it, whatever. Or
That's it. It's classed as That is one reason why we get rid of a shed, because it's classed as not gifted from the previous owner or tenant, but it's something that if anything was to go wrong with it, it should be down to us or yourselves to pay for that cost. Do you know what I mean? And anything that goes wrong with it, if it's rotten or if it's falling down, you're not going to keep it, and it's just upkeep. And I think as well from a lettings point of view, a tenant might look at it and think, sheds don't often look that great in the gardens that we view, so we just think and even ponds as well. Upkeep ponds, we generally get rid of ponds. Because of the health and safety with children, they could fall in, that comes back on us, and it's just not safe. So there's a space there, I believe, there's a pub socket there, and then this could be, I mean, to be honest, there's a pub socket, but there's a boiler there, so it's very a bit, we're like.
I think you could extend it this bit more, you can't, isn't it? It's closer to you.
Exactly. It's too restrictive, and that door comes back. So they should be soft closing, Everything's soft. Are they all soft closing? No, they're not. These ones? No, just the drawers. This is the seals, make sure this is all done. I've been to a property recently where the seals wasn't done, and you can just tell straight away when you walk in, it just looks messy.
What material is this?
it's a chipboard, isn't it?
Chipboard, isn't it?
I'm not too sure what, well, you know more than me with kitchens, so.
I've seen enough of these in my time. Chipboard,
So, one of the things that I picked up in here,
visually.
keep the floor is not.
No, if you put a hot pan, it's gonna go.
From the picture, it looks nice, but it's not very durable.
It's not something that they would normally say that needs level. If it was a floorboard and it's a safety issue, we'd level it out and we'd make sure it's safe. But if it was a permanent dip where you'd fall or trip, then yes, we would level it out. But that's not an issue in terms of, I don't think anyone would question that when wanting to live here, if that makes sense.
Did it become these things in here?
Yeah, that would be a snag. Yeah, we'd have to make sure that's all level and everything.
That on the top.
Yeah, that would be as well. Because that wasn't, these are all things, like I went to one yesterday, we kept the kitchen, the original kitchen that was in there, but it was filthy, so we put down that it needed cleaning, a deep clean, because the cooker hood was full of grease, the cooker was just filthy, so that all needed doing, but we was told that the property was ready to be let by the contractor, so that's not right. We need to make sure that it's clean. And also, there was a burn, you could see it like in the light, there was a circle pan mark. So we said, you've said that we're going to keep the kitchen, but we need to make sure that all this is rectified. And it's a kitchen that you've decided to keep, but now there's a mark on there. So what can we do about it, kind of thing. But that's obviously a risk that when you're actually viewing the property, you need to make sure if you're saying that kitchen's nice to keep, is it good enough? Because that was one that I didn't view, but there's a burn mark, obviously from the previous owner or tenant, so it's just damaged. And that's something that lettings like Jess, when she visits.
So what they do, like for example, this is, you don't take the heat up, right? So if they just put something hot and it just makes
So they need to make sure,
and when the tenant move out, like will you replace again the whole thing, or what you?
I don't know in terms of what we were doing. I'm not too sure because that again is like a letting. Once the property's let out,
Yeah.
any issues after that, it normally is put through the lettings team. They deal with you directly and arrange any
I think
repairs.
it will be covered as part of the management because you pay any management fees, right? So when the
Because
tenant
if
is
the damage
moving out,
is like,
yeah.
this is not interest, if the damage is done,
Yeah,
then
tenant-
everything has to be.
tenant is responsible for it. So they
Yeah,
got to
tenant
pay
is
the.
responsible. How
they
much
will-
deposit?
Yeah, they will take
A month's rent usually.
Yeah.
That's a huge deposit loss for the tenant, right?
Yeah, that's why they should be careful if they do.
Yeah, I was going to say if they know that it's common
Mm.
sense. I know it can happen as an accident.
Because it happened in our home, so because it's our home, it's fine. But
But I know what you mean, costs and things like that. It can be a bit of a tricky one. Yeah, no, I know. But that is something that normally Let's deal with directly, and they would deal with yourselves directly. If you've come to them and said who will be liable for this, they will be able to answer that for you. And just tell you what the terms are with that. What I did put in here. Yeah, no. The door frame. This is what I mean. When I said to you before,
Yeah.
I think it's worth replacing door frames that got chips in because that doesn't look flush.
yes,
Obviously, all these are replaced because the doors have been replaced. I think.
it looks odd anyway. Even if you paint it,
Yeah.
looking very odd.
This has been replaced now or cleaned, but it was mucky, really bad. That's been done. The window's been done. Everything's gonna come in here more, you see.
What about you see the gap in the floor?
The lino.
If you see there's a gap between.
Oh yeah,
the
between there.
edges.
Yeah, that's. If you look behind pipe, these are all things that we've picked up as part of snags. So, like I said, it does still need doing. The tiling.
What do you say? That skirting will that'll stay like that, will it? Or
The skirting itself, it depends. What was picked up on the original quote,
you had it on? Yeah, cross
I
reference.
can't then go back and say this now needs doing because it was decided this is what the work was that was needed. So if I was to go back and say, you know, skirting now needs doing, they would say, well, that wasn't on the original quote for us to do. So they'd question that. But it wasn't me that viewed it, so I can't take the hit for it, if that makes sense. If I viewed it, I'd be like, I've missed it off, you know, it does need doing. I hold my hands up kind of thing, but this is one that it's nearly done, but it's not.
It's a bit of give and take, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but at the same time, there's certain things that I can see that have been done since I last came, but then there's things that still need doing. So, for this snag list, once this is done, then they come and the Let's team, they come and do like what we call an inventory. So they come and do, they've got a checklist, it's bigger than this, it's a lot bigger than this, and they make sure that everything's up to standards, and they do a video for, which is what then they put on Facebook, and then that's when they have the interested people ringing up and saying, can I apply? But at the minute we're not doing physical viewings, it's just virtual tours. So people are applying for properties.
It's still it's not physical.
Not physical because of COVID, to be on the safe side. Because obviously you've had contractors and everything. We don't know in terms of safety, we don't want to risk it. So I think at the minute it's kept virtual, not physical. So
If they want it, what do they do? They just put a deposit down for it.
they have to application, references if they're not in full-time work and things like that. The reference need to be in full-time work employment. And then if they are in full-time employment, I don't think they need a reference because obviously they've got that income coming in to show that they can pay and things like that for the rent. But it might be, Jess could probably explain it better than myself. Sure. I'll ask her if she could maybe come in for a couple of minutes after and speak to you guys. That might be worth it. But
Sure.
I'll just show you. This is. Just showing them what you're doing it, so it's fine. This was decking. It's been removed. That was the decking that I mentioned that was safe.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they removed it and then they're levelling it out and they're making it safe for an extra bit of garden, I suppose. You know,
Sure.
if you wanted to put like grass there or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all going to be sorted out.
When it gets wet with down, it's sinking itself.
Yeah. No,
We're not really doing much water when it's here now.
no, that's fine. Because Paul did say that it was being removed, and then just needs to.
Yeah,
see.
well, that was 3 hours. Dropped it down to 2, and there's one on there. We backfilled the back, but I've been told to use what's here.
Yeah, no, that's
So,
fine.
I was told it was a small triangular decking.
Did you?
I got told it, honestly, it was a small triangular decking to be lifted up and a bit of raking. I've been here 3 days. We took 2 ton out the other day, at least another ton out there.
Always the way, eh?
When I do viewings. So I have to put my email address in there, which is my compliance@galaxy.com. So when you think of it as this way, so I've just been to view a property, I've come back to the office, and you can see that I've got a quote physically in front of me that I've written down notes. I can see there's damp, things like that that's needed. This is what gets sent to Vikash and all of the accounts team and everything, so then they can see what work's required, you know, the estimate of the work that's needed and things like that. So Vikash thought this would be a good idea, and I agreed to show you guys, because then you'll have a good insight on what happens behind the scenes in a way. Do you know, when we do in office kind of thing, so you can see what we do. So this is just an example, and all the figures are examples as well. They're not the exact figures for GDPR and things like that. So we need to make sure we're not going by those figures. So this is Corporation Road that we viewed earlier, and it's the first version of the quote. So when the electrician and the plumber then come back to me with their quotes, it would be the second version. So
Sorry, is it the first property or second property? First property from the morning.
no, sorry, no, second. This is second. This is an example of the 185 Corporation. So you know,
Opposite to the playground.
yeah.
That's the one.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first one, I haven't done that quote yet because I've still
Yeah.
got to do that quote. Because obviously I've been whipping out and about, so I said to Vikash, I'll be doing that later. But this one is just an example, so you can see more of an insight on how I input the quote on the system and things like that. So I've put today's date in, and the rent potential for this one. This is just an example. Vikash said 475. So then we'd go on to next. You can see it clearly, can't you? So this one.
499. Right.
Oh, you was not far.
499.
That was a good guess. So
We're looking
this.
increase the size.
Sorry.
If you don't mind, just check. You know, 499. The reason is when the people search for up to 500,
Yeah.
the right move is okay. So 499 gets a bit more viewings on it.
Yeah.
You know this, isn't it?
So this
Clicks on
one.
the
I
train.
saw it, share it.
There's certain bit boxes that I tick. So when we went to a property, like today, to be honest, the properties that we've been to, they need full ripping out and doing out anyway. So what I would do in this instance is tick every single box, but then what they've done is they've given me the quote, and it tells me exactly what they've put down that's needed. So this one, full property clean, remove old kitchen, remove old bathroom, and remove flooring. I would say the plastering needs doing as well, so I'm going to tick plastering and flooring, because the whole thing needs ripping out and redoing, so that's just what needs to be done. In this other box here, that's where I would put specifically, so for example when we mentioned the render outside, later on in the quote I'll show you where it shows that, but that's where you put any extra notes. So if that tick box doesn't include anything that's specific in the property, that's where I would put anything. So roof needs looking at desperately, there's leaks, things like that. You specifically put it on there because the contractors, they need to know exactly where they're looking. Otherwise you're just giving them, so roof leak, so they're going to be like, well, where is it? You know, we need to know where the roof leak's suspected, that kind of thing. Labour cost for this one, as I say, these are just example figures. So we put down to do all, oh that's the rent, sorry, 800 to do all of that. So that would be the cost for a full property clean, remove old kitchen, remove old bathroom and remove the flooring, the plastering and the toilet. That would cost around £800. So this one is the removing the wallpaper. So as you know, it was a very old property, it needed everything ripping out, carpets, wallpaper, everything needed ripping out. So then you tick every box, because that is the whole property. It was 3 bedroom, included it in the quote, and it's in the
So
cost.
these costs are set by Paul.
No, these costs are just examples. I went through with Vikash and we just, because obviously for GDPR purposes and things like that, for cost wise, we went through figures that are near to the exact, but not, if that makes sense, because we needed to make sure that we used sort of example figures. Again, as well, with this quote, I haven't seen this property, so they're not going to be accurate to what I would say, if that makes sense. Everyone's got a different eye for something, and everyone's got a different opinion as well. So for me, I think that property needs fully ripping out. But when on the original quote, it didn't include everything that I wanted it to, so I've tweaked it to show what I want it to show, basically. So everything, all the wallpaper needs ripping out, and that would cost approximately, I've put down here, £400 to do that as labour, to remove all of that. This, then it goes straight down to, just going to make sure I'm getting this right. So this is what we discussed with the skips and everything like that. Yeah. So for a 3 bedroom property, every single time we put down that it needs 2 skips, because the amount of, if you're ripping out a full property, you've got all the materials that you need to fill, you'll need 2 skips to do that, sometimes 3 if it's really bad, and if it's got a lot of things like, I went to one yesterday, it had 3 sheds in the back garden, that's going to need 3 skips because it's 3 big sheds, you've got a greenhouse, the full property needs ripping out, it's just going to take a lot of work and effort to do that. We've put the material costs down, 1 second. Just making sure this is right. New shower curtain, new bathroom. So we've put this down here. Skips needed, approximately, we've put down £380. Stock delivery costs, so that's basically delivery of any stock, so kitchens, you know, the bathroom, everything that we need to order that's being delivered, and the materials and things like that, that we have to always put that down at a certain cost. So we always put that down at around £200, because that could be what the delivery could come to for everything. Like we say, we do often order in bulk, but if we don't, then it does obviously not, you know, we have to include all the costs and things like that. That's, as you can see at the top here, work's done by Luke and Dan. So they're listed separately because that's their separate quotes that they provide me with. So this one, as you can tell, it needed a new kitchen and everything. So this would need all the boxes ticking because everything was needed. New splashback tiles, new sink, new units, new worktops, and then the supply and installation of it as well. So we have a split on each section, material and labour, and then we have to put the total cost, as you can see there. So then everything, when the accounts team look at it, they can see exactly for that specific job how much it's going to be material-wise, labour-wise, and then at the end, I'll show you at the end, but you have a grand total of everything included. So material cost for this would cost approximately £2,500, labour 900, and then in total we've obviously added everything up as total cost, and then at the end it's calculated. So then that's the kitchen cost, and now we're on to the bathroom. So this one, it needs a new shower curtain, new shower rail, curtain rail, and tiles around the bath and the sink as well. So that would be material. This is not the full bathroom, by the way. This doesn't include the toilet and the bath. That's later on. I'll show you later. This is just for the shower curtain, rail, and the tiles. Yeah. So and then approximately that. So then this is where we've missed this bit out, this wet room, because there is no wet room at the property. You know, the walk-in showers that you get, there isn't one of them. So we'd go on to the next section, which is where Luke, the plumber, sends us his quote, and this is the section that I fill in with the figures that he gives me. So this here is based on what the original person that viewed the property and what myself, well, this is what they put down that needed doing. They've put, well, Luke's come as well, but he's put new mixer taps, which material cost for that is 60 approximately, and then bathroom, this is where it comes into play. New bathroom suite with a new bath, new sink, new toilet, new sink taps and new bath taps. Approximately material for that, 400.
When you pick those things, does the material cost come automatically for you? Probably you know where you're going to get this material.
I have a specific file that I open up each quote that I do. It's the same prices, but like I say, it varies in terms of what contractor's going to be doing the work. So the quote that I'm giving is an approximate quote. It's not the exact figures. So Vikash just wants a good idea of what it would cost.
Hi guys, and just wanted to say, hope you enjoyed the great session that I had on Grimsby, viewing lots of properties and seeing the process of how you would source your property, how you would look at the points in terms of your offer and how to offer, and also the refurb process as well, because that's definitely something that you need to consider, because obviously your client is paying you money for the refurb, so you want to make sure that you get your, you get everything in there, and you cover everything that needs to be charged for, and also you get it done to a good standard. I hope you're able to see the different stages. So the first stage was where we viewed a property that was that we were going to buy, and then the second stage was a property that we bought, and was going through the refurb stage, and then thirdly there was a property that had been completed, the refurb process had been completed, and that was almost ready for let to a nice family. So that I hope gives you an understanding of how that all works, and hope I don't know if there is. I hope there are some questions. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So do put any questions in the comments box, because that would be much appreciated. Also, hugely appreciate your likes for the content, and also do subscribe to the channel if it's content that you feel you'd like to be constantly updated with. And we here at Property Secrets are looking to update you on a regular basis, at least one video a week. So if you have any suggestions for videos that you'd like us to cover, we would love that. And we'd love your feedback. So please do give us that. And yes, we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. This is Tony Pereira signing out. Thank you very much, and thanks for your thanks for watching. And see you